What is up, YouTube? This is your host, Ranee B, here to spill that homicidal tea. Long time no see, homicidal tea. I am recording this on Christmas Eve 2022, so this is a recent one, I hope. I learned a few lessons in the last few weeks, though. When you record a bunch of videos ahead of time, you have a tendency to think that, oh, I got all this, I'm good, that you're way ahead, when you're not necessarily that far ahead. So you start getting kind of lazy, and I don't think I'm ever going to make that mistake again. And then too, I also learned that when you change jobs and accept a new position that has a lot more work and naturally more pay, that'll come with a lot less time to play at work. And I used to play a lot at my last job, writing scripts, tweaking scripts, recording, editing, all that stuff. Anyway, it was fun, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't nearly as rewarding. So I've also learned that I need to find new ways creatively to play more at my current job. I'm just kidding.
Oh no, she's not.
And I bought a domain name. I'm going to start trying to create my website, but I'm slowly finding out that it's not 1998 anymore, or 88, whatever. And it's a lot different than creating some pages in some website creator and just hitting publish. I want to have like scrolling features and JavaScript and YouTube vids and, everything. It's a lot of coding in Java. And dude, I am almost 50. What the hell am I supposed to do for all that? Seriously. Anyway, that's where I've been the last couple of weeks. Oh, and I also had COVID again. That's the fourth time. So, and then there's Christmas. Oh my God, excuses, eh? Anyway, most importantly though, and I preface this with, no offense to anybody that doesn't align with this school of thought or whatever, but I just haven't felt anyone calling me. So, and I don't feel like I'm being authentic, just posting stories in cases just to post content. There's a couple of older stories that I've covered. I really actually do genuinely feel bad about for not really telling their stories with the integrity that they deserve. Probably I'm going to go back and rewrite those scripts and re-record those. So, it is true, yes, that the algorithm wants me to vomit content regardless of quality or integrity. But if I'm not authentic in my desire to tell stories that I feel are going to be gifted to me basically from beyond, then, why do it, So that kind of explains the absences lately. From here on out, though, I'm going to make a concerted effort to record and post at least once a week. Now, let's just see if Aisel can keep up, the video editor.
You clearly don't know who you're talking to, so let me clue you in.
She's been harassing me for more content, whatever. I guess she doesn't have enough people to make fun of and mess with, because I watched the last one that she edited and I about died whenever she talked about me giving it to her at Thanksgiving whenever I'd recorded it on Halloween. So yeah, that's definitely somebody that'll put me in my place when I need to be. But anyway, before we move forward, oh my God, let me show you something real quick. These are the cutest bracelets. I'm going to do an insert or zoom or whatever. Oh my gosh, they got little paw prints on them. They got tons of different kinds. And it's this little store, and you can put it's a little disc of felt in it, and you can drop your favorite centering essential oil on them. And that's really important for those of us who are empaths, because even the great Eckhart Tolle says that you can only really find true peace by being in the present. And it's things like greed and desires, anxiety, and emotions that get in our way and in our presence. And we can't really be in ourselves and really experience happiness. We tend to miss out on that if we're not in the present. And one way to really keep us in the present is to just, center ourselves with a good scent or something. So anyway, I'm going to put the link in the description. It's Vivienne Dufort. Love it. It's awesome. And then you can do Vivienne Dufort /homicidal, and they have the cutest stuff ever. Jewelry, accessories. They've got clothes. They've got, oh my God. Oh wait, hold on. These sunglasses are so cute. Oh my gosh. Oh, I feel like a baller. I feel like I should be walking into training camp in NFL. Hey, what's up, y'all? What's up? Hey man, what's up? Yeah, man. Saw you at the jeweler. Saw you at the Bentley dealership. Yeah, I know. Aren't they cool? Anyway, anything you buy on there, and if you use /homicidal, you'll get the additional 10% from that purchase price will go into the escrow account that's used for donating to genetic genealogy research and victims impact programs. So that's kind of cool. So I love that site. And anyway, that's one thing that's not changed though, has it? My long ass intros. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's just get into the case. The case where the victim actually visited me a couple of nights ago in a dream, asking me why I hadn't written her story yet. I swear to God. Oh my God. Anyway, So whenever she appeared to me like that, though, I was like, "Ooh, ouch!" So I guess it's time for me to get back in that studio. So, well, Carlene, this one's for you. It's time to tell your story: the solved homicide case of Carlene Kelly. Dude, I'm totally digging these contacts. I don't know how they're going to look on camera, but in person, they're really cool. Anyway, okay, dude, how many times when you were a teenager did you hang out somewhere and you get into cars with people and you just met and you go to parties and house parties and clubs and pub crawls and all sorts of stuff, and you look back on that and you're like, oh my God, I cannot believe I am still alive. I have got hours, and I mean hours of stories that I could tell with all that. I mean, most of them end with, I could have died or gotten sold into human trafficking or gotten indecently assaulted. I mean, it's crazy. So we are so cavalier when we are young. I mean, thankfully, we never encountered some of these monstrous, vile assholes that pepper these cases with their evil deeds. Unfortunately, though, Carlene Kelly, she wasn't as lucky. But before we get into how exactly Carlene crossed paths with the soon-to-be-mentioned vile thing that is Roy Herrick, let's just see what he was up to earlier that same day. On June 26, 1981, Roy Herrick came home from work at about 4 p.m. According to his testimony, he consumed roughly 15 beers and 6 joints from 4 to 9 p.m. He stated that he believed he was only mildly inebriated. Winner! Anyway, so what does he do? I mean, he decides to get behind the wheel of a car, which is a shame he didn't, drive himself fatally, slamming himself into a lamppost. But anyway, on the way to his friend's house, he thought it would be a good idea to stop off at a gas station and pick up some items in Daytona Beach, Florida. Well, that's where he met Carlene Kelly and Deborah Miller. Carlene and Deborah were walking down to the pier just to hang out at the beach and planning on chilling out and smoking some weed and drinking, just hanging out, young girls. Well, the pair made a quick stop at the gas station to get some items, and they started chatting up with Roy. And Roy was 22 at the time, so it was just a guy their age who seemed cool. And it was nothing that would have, given them any weird feelings. He offered to drive them to the pier, and although the two girls didn't know Herrick, they agreed to. Why not? Dude, just hitch a ride. It's better than walking at night, you know what I mean? Well, on the way, the three smoked the rest of the girls' marijuana while they were in the van with Herrick. They were actually having a great time chatting it up and just hanging out in the van, but Herrick said, let's keep this party going. And they were like, how? And he said, let's swing by a little place that I grow some of the devil's lettuce. And they were like, cool, all right. So they all hop in the van, and they made another pit stop on the way at another convenience store en route, and they bought a 6-pack of beer and proceeded to the mini pot farm that Roy tended to. They had to go down some winding, off the beaten path roads, which seems kind of scary in conversation, especially for us that are a little bit older. But you can't just grow weed out in the open, so I'm sure nobody suspected anything strange. Finally, they arrived at the grow area, and when they got there, unfortunately, the marijuana leaves were too wet to smoke, but Roy had an idea how to dry them out. He put them on the hood of the van to dry, so the trio waited for almost an hour, and then the conversation started taking an odd turn. Roy started talking about the intimacy problems that he was having with his wife, and that sent some red flags up Deborah's spine. So she said that she felt bad for him going through all that and all, but Carlene and her needed to really get going. So Roy sort of shook the conversation off and said, sure, and we can go ahead and leave. So they all hopped in the van, and the nice side of Roy took a dive. They had only driven a few yards when Roy abruptly stopped the van and ordered both girls to strip off their clothes, brandishing a gun that he had hidden. They exited the van, and Deborah could hear what sounded like Roy taking advantage of Carlene. But fearing for the gun that she had seen earlier, she kept her head down. Roy, in actuality, had indecently assaulted Carlene, and when he was finished, he barked orders at the girls to get dressed and to get back into the van. Seeing as the major road was far away, he would drive them to the interstate and then drop them off, promising not to harm them if they got back in the car. What a nice guy. The girls were in shock, so they weren't thinking clearly, so they were just like, okay, get in the van, do whatever he says. And they got in the van and tried not to piss off the gun-wielding asshole that was driving. They began driving again just about a quarter mile or so, and Carlene said she needed to use the bathroom. So the van stopped again on the desolate wooded area, and Roy agreed to stop. Said, Deborah, Carlene, get out of the car. He said, get behind the van and lie down. This is where I'm going to drop you off. So while walking around the van, Deborah instructed Carlene to try to see the license plate number. The two girls then sat down behind the van and then lay down on their stomachs. Deborah noticed Harriet coming at them from the side, and she glanced up to try to see the license plate. It was at that time that she saw that Roy was holding a gun, but this time it was covered in a towel, presumably to muffle any shots from being heard. These girls, can you imagine? Anyway, oh my God, it's just horrific. Oh my God, send her myself. Don't cry. The two girls were still alive. As unimaginable as it is, they were also still sobbing. This enraged Roy. So he went back to his van and he returned with a knife and he grabbed Deborah's head and slit her throat. He did the same thing to Carlene and tore ass in that van, leaving both girls to bleed out, believing that he had severed their spinal cords. But that did not happen. Deborah miraculously maintained consciousness. After the man tore ass and was out of sight, Deborah checked on Carlene, and she was past the point of saving and had most likely passed on at that point. So Deborah somehow got up, walked and crawled, and dragged herself toward the main road, only occasionally resting on the side of the trail to get her strength back. She eventually reached the highway and somehow hailed down a passing driver who took her to the hospital. Deborah described Roy as her assailant and gave the police a description of the man and the van while she was at the hospital. It wasn't difficult for them to find the guy, and he was promptly brought in and arrested, thank God. Deborah, she got to be the ghost of Roy's past by sitting on the stand and being able to point out the man that tried to kill her and the monster that viciously took her friend's life. According to the medical evidence presented at trial, Deborah had a gunshot wound to the back of the head and a severe laceration that ran across her neck, all the way through the anterior muscles of the neck, severing her windpipe all the way through the neck in the posterior area, almost to the backbone. What does that mean in normal person talk? What that means is that Deborah was literally holding her fucking head on with her hands when she dragged herself through the bush, stood up, hailed a vehicle to get her to the hospital, holding her own head on. Oh my God. The testimony provided by the emergency room physician that treated her stated that they found it absolutely incomprehensible that Deborah would be able to withstand such an injury and live. Now let's flip this case to the humor hour, because this defense is laughable. In his own defense, Roy Herrick stated he'd smoked weed and drank a lot of beer that evening. He said he remembered picking up the woman at the gas station. Yeah, two women, I believe. I'm not, I was kind of drunk. I took them to the wooded location and, for more weed because they'd run out. His version of the events continued that they were in the woods for an hour while attempting to dry the marijuana that Deborah had requested to leave, so they did so. Now, Roy Herrick, he vehemently denied that he had ever indecently assaulted anybody, or much less killing her, and he denied trying to kill Deborah Miller. She just made it all up. Especially the nearly decapitated part. He said that in order for the girls to phone a friend for a ride home, that he claimed to drive them from the woods and drop them off at a convenience store close by. That was it. Oh, besides the fact that he was a volunteer firefighter and he was just such a good boy while he was in jail before trial. That's all you got? Well, good, because Roy Herrick was found guilty by the jury of 2 charges of kidnapping as well as first-degree murder of Carlene Kelly and the attempted first-degree murder of Deborah Miller. Yeah, you know what that means? That means that in the penalty phase, Herrick's defense, they put a friggin' psychologist, a clinical psychologist, whatever, on the stand that testified that, even though Herrick was competent at the time of the offense, heavy drug and alcohol usage at the time had caused him to have acute mental or emotional disturbance. That's it. Nobody was buying what the defense was selling, so the jury recommended the imposition of the death penalty. Okay, so we're always excited about that. The trial judge agreed, and so guess what? He appealed, and they said no. And then he appealed again, and he said no. And then they appealed again, and the judge said no. So when the glorious day actually came, after so many appeals, the then 32-year-old Roy stated at a very low volume, I'm sure for effect, I'm upset with a nearly entire lack of impartiality. I'm sorry, that's a genuine laugh too. Of the American criminal justice system. This is definitely a terrible time in the history of our nation. Dude, get a grip. When political concerns take precedence over an individual's fundamental rights. You mean the right to indecently assault and murder a young girl for no reason and have her friend be a party to it, and then you try to murder the friend as well. Shut up. Anyway, that's when they flip the switch. Hooray! Yay! So, anyway, I couldn't find any notes on whether or not that it took a long time, but I hope so. I love it when they suffer. I love it. And for anybody who can't believe that somebody would actually love someone suffering, I'm going to say it again for you. I hope that I hope that he felt every sizzle. Anyway. But as exciting as that is it for this case. I can't really find much on either woman online. And it sucks because I always like to get pictures. And of course I found a picture of Roy glamorizing the killers as usual. But unfortunately, there are just no pictures of Carlene anywhere. I found a pic of her gravestone. I mean, I just wish I could see her to see if it matches the girl in the dream. That dark blonde-headed, sweet-faced girl in the dream. I wonder if it was Carlene that helped Deborah get to the highway. I have quite a bit of medical background knowledge. And I just don't know how anybody could physically or hell even mentally get herself and drag herself through the woods and have the capacity to stand without Carlene somehow helping her. Adrenaline is crazy chemical, so who knows though. But funny side note though, I actually found this case on an anti-death penalty site. So pretty much backfired for y'all. Anyway, I would like to say I want to apologize, but I don't, for reading your blog and then using the information to research this case and explicitly laugh and celebrate the sizzle and smoke that came out of Roy Herrick whenever he was put to death. I really do get a kick out of it. I just I wonder what filth smells like when it's fried. Anyway,
I thought I smelled trash.
Thank you guys so much. Thanks to the guys over there. Thanks to the guys and gals over there. You're publishing content for me. Thanks. Anyway, but thank you so much for coming back to my channel. I promise I will see you guys soon in the next videos. I have some cases that really don't require an intimate connection with the victims or the events that I can record if I'm not feeling drawn to anyone in particular. Some with survivors and even some animals that are actually kind of funny, but still homicidal. But until friends, you have a great holiday. And I don't know what this time of year means to some of you. But at the pool the other morning, I commonly see a lady who is from India and she's Hindu. So I left and I said, happy holiday. Oh, wait, no. I said, have a good few days off. And she thought that was pretty funny. So anyway, but have a happy week regardless. And I will see you next week in the next video. And until then, thank you again. And I've missed y'all. Good to be back, and I'll see you later.